refreshing. Okay, so the project is still there. Saved the code, refreshed. Okay, so that's good. So we're on to the next part, which is getting the actual texture upload logic into our GPU variable controller. So if we kind of like wander around here, so it's this chunk of code kind of like belongs in our variable controller. And yeah, so let's just take all of it right now. And I'm gonna paste it over in my notes that are off screen. Actually, one more thing before I do that. Even though I didn't use that texture size variable, I still want to make a note of that in my variable name notes. I mean, that's kind of what they have been recently, but this is like my master reference file. Not just for programming, but for like all knowledge. It's my master knowledge base. So if we use texture size like that, then we're going to give it a check mark, because that is typed correctly and it is recognized as a valid variable name for the list of variables that I use. Now if we type something like this, which is close, we will correct the spelling. And if we type texture size, and it looks like we already had a thing where we're like texture size does not exist, but that's the specific texture size command. So if we look at this, I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to move it up a little bit further. I'm going to move it back up to the top of the file, where we are kind of like making these notes, so I have a place to. We are going to. I don't think that note is true anymore. Now we have a texture size. Okay, so we're gonna say if somebody does this, we'll say pick texture size and URL or the variable name. Okay, and texture size, texture size, texture size. Okay, yeah, and then right here we'll say texture size and then var name and then texture size var. Okay, yeah, that's good. And the last thing we want to do is for if somebody decides that they type something like pixel size, and I believe I might already have that recognized. Did I like no? Okay, cool. So if somebody does one of these, this is incorrect. Wrong. Use size because used in shader code. And then I'll just make a note that these are conceptually equal. These variable names are conceptually equal, but the thing is that I don't want to use both variable names in the code. I always want to use this one. So basically I'm trying to do one variable name per concept, or one variable name per very specific definition on what that variable does. Okay, and if somebody types these backwards, I'll say backwards and wrong. Use Okay. And then over here, I should probably make something if this is typed backwards as well. So okay, so now that I've made those in my notes, I'm going to continue doing whatever I was doing before I got distracted. So let's go over the code. And, oh yeah, so all of this stuff for pushing the texture up. Now, some of this could be redundant, right? Like the first time we push, we need to. Oh, that's a lie. Because never mind. It's a state machine, so each time we push a specific texture, we gotta do active texture and bind texture. So this is like we have all these different texture slots in an array, and this is gonna tell us which texture slot is kind of like in focus, which texture slot is the subject of other commands. The bind texture is going to say for that texture slot that's currently in focus, like what texture handle are we going to associate with that slot. So actually, this one we always are going to need every time we re-push the texture, but technically we only need this one the first time, right? We just have to associate this handle with this texture slot, and we only have to do this once. However, I'm not about to like fractionate the code base and like write more code just because technically this is redundant after the first time. Like, why? It's good to know that, because I'm going to tell you that the first time I wrote OpenGL code, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that, you know, this one is always necessary and this one's only necessary the first time. Now that depends on how you've decided to like work with your code, right? But I've decided that, you know, there's going to be a certain set of textures and those textures are never changing. You know, if your program design is different than that, then what I've just said about this always being necessary and this only necessary the first time, that may not be true. But since I'm going to always use the same texture slots for the same textures and the same samplers for the same textures, like all that is going to be true. Okay, so we have this, but before we do that, because I'm paranoid, refresh, code's not broken. Just want to make sure, because, you know, there's always the potential that you accidentally, like, click or select or delete something when you're not paying attention. And we know it's way down here is the unimplemented code here. And I don't know what the deal with, you know, doing this part is, but for this, for the actual put, for getting that working, it's just everything I cut. We have to rearrange some. We'll have to change some of this a bit, because right, we'll have to rework it a bit. Okay, you know what I said about those two things, and I am missing. God damn it. So I can't even cut and paste correctly here. So let's do that again. Let's try to. Okay, so we grab all of it, and now we're gonna go back down there, being very careful that we don't press any keys because that's still highlighted up there. Okay, we're gonna click over here, We're going to select all this and notice that there's only one line here. Okay, now we're going to paste again. Okay, so now we have both of those. Let's indent. And now everything is kind of flowing over the edge a little bit, so we'll need some cleanup for that. Texture 0. So let's just extract variables from container. So we'll extract all the variables from the container. So so the texture slot equals the container dot the texture slot, right? We're not going to actually change anything, right? We'll keep these same names, but we're going to take off that qualifier so that we can kind of shorten these lines. So we need the texture slot, we need the texture handle, we need the width, the height, and this pixel array. And I think that's all we need. I kind of highlighted these parts that need attention so that as we're doing this, right? And so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So 2, 3, 4, and 5. Oh, wait, hold on. These are the same variable. No, they're not. Okay. So the texture slot, the texture handle, the pixel width, pixel height, and the pixel array. And then once we have these, what we can do is we can take them all, paste them right here with some column selection, clear all of our token highlighting, and then we can go through them all again like this really quick, just making sure that both sides of these equations match up. And then we can just color it all different colors, be all nice and fancy like that. Except when we get to the 5th one, because I think I only have colorings 1 through 4. I'll try Control 5 and hope... Actually, I'm going to save it first and hope nothing horrible. You know, I'm not even going to do it in this tab because I'm too paranoid, but I'm going to go over here because I don't know what Control 5 does. I think it might color, but I'm pretty sure I only have colors 1 through 4. Okay, so 5 is actually a color. Oh wait, do I have like a color for each number and I've just been using 1 through 4 because I've just been so used to it? Okay, no, I only have colors... Okay, it's colors 1 through 5, but for some reason I thought 4 was the limit. Okay, so we can give that a color too, a different color. All right, so we got all these different tokens highlighted that kind of like need our attention. We can easily see where is where because we got this blue, we got this orange, we got this more yellow, orange, purple, and green. Okay, so let's just start trimming this down. Alright, so this was originally from a loop, so we do not need that. Okay, we got 2 of 5 out of the way. That doesn't need any refactoring. That is correct now, and that is correct as well. We do, however, need to trim this down and get that there. Okay, so now this is a problem. So I could call this, I think what we could do is we could just call this, we could use this will shorten the lines. So I'm going to say var min filter, right? And this is just so I can oh yeah, and this GL prefix is also, the GL there is going to need, you know, I'm going to call it min filter. Like that, because now I realize I'm going to need a little bit more space. So, mag filter. Okay, so we got the min filter, we got the mag filter. Okay, and we'll just, now we can replace those variables like that. Min filter, mag filter. And another thing I can do while I'm here, just because I am kind of OCD with this kind of thing, I'm gonna go over here and somebody types minfill or minfill or minfill like that. You know, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna be like this, texture min filter like that. And then we could do the same thing with the max. Or not max, but mag, right? So there's the I think it's because it's minification and magnification, not min and max. Okay. And then these are lowercase, so mag. And this is also, you know, it's not just a knowledge base, it's also a thing to, like, let me know I've been here before, right? So if, like, 50 years or 40 years pass by and I start coding this again, I may have forgotten that I even wrote any of this GL code. And so this will be, like, a thing to tell me that I've kind of, like, I've done this before. And also, the more times I record things that I've done before, hopefully by the time I've recorded it enough time in the shortcuts, I'll have, you know, have it memorized. But okay. And then let's do one more thing, which is we're going to take these, and if I type that exactly correct, I might want to just say, no, let's just do this for now. And then same thing with the magnification filter. If you type it exactly correct, we'll just verify. And if you type it like with lower cases or texture min filter or texture min filter, we'll take this and we'll correct it to the correct constant value. And same thing with the mag filter, so texture mag filter and texture mag filter and texture mag filter. And if you do that, then we will replace it with this as well. Okay, so this is also tedious, but you gotta think that studying is also tedious, so this is like helping me study because I'm transcribing. But not only does it help me study, but now it's just in my shortcuts. So if my studying fails me, I at least have the information at my fingertips readily accessible. Okay, so let's go back here. And min filter, mag filter, and we gotta remove that GL if we're gonna do that, right? So we could just call that wrap S, and so wrap S, or twrap S, since I have this, you know, OCD thing going. And we'll do gl dot texture wrap S, and then texture wrap T, right? So var twrap T, right? This is for the S and T coordinates of UVWs, but it's specifically like UVWs within the shader, I think. I can't remember. So UVW and STR are very highly like analogous, but I don't remember the exact details there, but I've read about it a few times. Okay, S and T, and then the next thing we're going to do is twrap and S and T. So S and T, right? So both of these are being used. These are identical commands, except one is S and one is T. Okay, cool. So, right, now we've kind of like added more, like, we've added more, so obviously the way I write this, you know, requires writing more code just so that we don't go over a column limit, and you might disagree with that, but I like being able to, you know, never have to scroll, like, left and right? You can just seek up and down and no problems, right? So this game dev comment, you know, we could just remove the HTTP from there, and now we're good. Okay, so now these GLs, we have to address, so I'm gonna go Control 0 here. We gotta address these GLs, because now it's the adapter graphics so I'm gonna, should I make an exception for this? I mean, there's a lot. Okay, now the thing is if I okay, so we have the adapter graphics, and then within there we have a context graphics, and that context graphics is actually the GL object. But what we're gonna do is we could have, so this context graphics is, you know, obviously much more wordy than these GLs. So my concern is that right, that these lines start to get very long. So you know what I'm going to do? Because this is like a very shorthand variable, that's the intention here. I'm just going to call it capital G. So usually when I have a temporary shorthand variable, I just use one letter. Because it's just supposed to be a temporary shorthand variable. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take all the GLs and replace them with G. So so the other thought was to, you know, replace all these with context graphics, but then holy crap, that makes the lines really long. And does it add any extra benefit? It really doesn't. It just makes everything more cluttered and harder to read. So let's just put a G in front of here, right? And the other thing is, because this is so prevalent, this prefix is like all over the place in this function, it's not like you have to name it something super descriptive, because it's so prevalent. The more prevalent it is, the higher frequency it shows up, the more terse you can be, right? Like when you think about the English language, or any language for that matter, the more commonly used words are shorter, right? That's why participles, right? Like a, is, the, right? They're very short, right? One syllable, sometimes just one letter, right? You use the word I and me, right, a lot in sentences, so therefore very short, right? Very short identifiers, I and me, right? One letter and two letters. So because this identifier has a very high frequency, we can be more terse with it. All right, just we're following kind of like natural language rules here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. All right, we extract the variables from the container. We could, you know, we could get decorate if we really want to, right? We could be like, I don't really need to. We could section that off, right? So, make that section more obvious. And then, actually, I'm going to put TP, and you'll see why for after I. So TP for texture push, and it's like this whole section, right? So this whole section is the texture pushing, and we will put TP texture push. Okay. Awesome. I think that's gonna work. And so the effect of having this here right now is that we are going to end up pushing the texture twice in a row, which is kind of a stupid thing to do, but right, the code is kind of like in this unfinished state where we're still kind of like refactoring it, and even though pushing the texture twice is something stupid to do, it should not affect what we're going to see in this output if we've done everything correctly. So we should give it a shot and just see if it all works. So let's do that. So here's what it looks like now, but I haven't refreshed yet. Let's give it a refresh, and we have fucked up somehow. So the very first thing I'm going to do before I even check the console is I'm just going to comment out the body of the function we've been working on, and I'm going to refresh and see if it like unbreaks itself. Okay, so by commenting out the body of the code I was working on, it does unbreak itself. So that is an indicator to me that I have, I've either, right, that the mistake is either some type of mistake in how I've written the function, or that maybe calling it twice was a problem, right? But let's, so I commented it back in. We're going to refresh, right? Now we've broken it, and let's see what we have here. AGA GRA is not defined, and I know exactly what that is. That's supposed to be adapter graphics. That's not supposed to be, like, it's not a thing. AGA? Yeah. So if we go back here, and it's kind of obvious because when I double click this, nothing else highlights, and it should be this, right? And that's the other thing. That's why you want to minimize your variable names, so when you're clicking around like this, you can kind of see where the connections are. So there we go. Now, obviously, if you're in Visual Studio or something, right, your IDE has connection tool, has probably a lot of tooltips and things that'll show you where the associations are. I'd really like it if somebody made an IDE where instead of me having to double click everywhere, it could have like a mode where it just connects lines to variables that are the same data. Like it does like a static analysis or something and then just connects lines. Yeah, that would be helpful. I might do that one day. That's on my to-do list of pieces of software I'd like to write. But if somebody wants to get to it before me, that's a piece of software I'd use. Okay, so we've corrected that little problem there, and if we refresh now, excellent. So we've pushed the texture twice, and nothing bad happened. So now if we're gonna go into so we can just grab onto texture min filter here to find the other relevant code. So this right here is where we originally were pushing the texture inside of a loop, and now we're gonna do it down here, outside of a loop, more explicitly, obviously, but less mental interaction. So let's we're gonna comment out this block. Okay, now let's just hope this works. I have an irrational fear that the whole entire computer is gonna explode when I press that refresh button, but let's try to get over that. Ah, nice, it still works. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna intentionally make a syntax error because I'm very paranoid because I'm about to like obliterate this big block of code. Intentional syntax error. We're gonna go back here. We're gonna refresh. All right, we've broken it. We're gonna get rid of that syntax error I made. Refresh. All right, it works. And that's just me being very paranoid. Make absolutely sure that the code is actually working before I just, blast this section of code away, right? Ah, that's nice. So we've gotten rid of that, and now we've kind of, we've done some refactoring, right? Instead of doing this in a loop, instead of doing it in a more procedural style, like by doing that all pushing in a loop, we have made it a little bit more object-oriented. And like I said, I'm freely going to mix object-oriented code with procedural code. I'm going to use whatever style I think will make the most concise project. Okay. So now let's I'm going to refresh. All right, excellent. Nice. I'm going to stop recording because I'm pretty sure I went over my time. This is like a 30-minute video. The next thing I'm going to do is I think I'm going to clean some of this up. I don't know if I'm going to record while I do that. I like to listen to some techno music or something, and clean this up. And I don't think you need to see me clean this up. So I don't think I'm going to record that, and I would like a break from speaking. So I'm gonna listen to some techno music and clean this code up, and then we're gonna get into probably how to like get like a put pixel and set pixel command into this. So we need to like figure out how to push the texture. And once we're able to push the texture and create like a get pixel set pixel command, we can kind of like wrap all of this code into a canvas adapter class, and then we can like swap out the canvas adapter from the previous project with this one. But once we get to the point where we're going to swap out this code with the canvas adapter from the previous project, that will be another playlist. That'll be a playlist where we're going to like smash them both together. And just keep the same functionality we had, but now are running much faster, right? Okay, so I'll see you at a later date. All right, bye-bye.